He said, "No one's going to care. They're all too busy waving flags." And that's when I knew, my own blood was stealing from the dead. It was July 3rd, one day before the parade. The air already smelled like gunpowder and grilled hot dogs. Small-town America was stringing up flags, painting sidewalks, and tuning up marching band drums. Fireworks were stacked in every corner store like freedom came in cardboard tubes. And me? I was polishing my boots. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. 65 years old. 2 tours behind me. 1 replaced hip, a chest full of ribbons, and a back that screamed every morning like it remembered each explosion better than I did. But I stood tall. This town still looked at me like I meant something. Like my presence at the parade in full dress blues still counted. Still mattered. I'd been asked to lead the Veterans March this year. First time since my stroke. Said I was the face of tradition. The spirit of service. But that spirit nearly shattered when I passed by the mayor's office and heard my nephew's voice. Colin. Deputy Mayor. Young. Polished. Slicker than an oil spill on marble. Always had a fresh suit, white teeth, expensive cologne, and an answer too fast to be honest. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. But the door was cracked. And when you've been trained to hear whispers through jungle heat and urban rubble, your ears don't forget. The reorganization buys us time, Colin was saying. The veterans won't ask questions. Most of them don't even check the paperwork. Another voice, unfamiliar, clipped. What about the fund? We're still pulling the full 5? Colin laughed. Of course. 5 million. Clean transfer. Looks like admin overhead. By the time anyone notices, it's buried under red, white, and blue confetti. I gripped the doorframe so hard my knuckles went white. $5 million. From the Veterans Support Fund. From my brothers. I backed away before they saw me. My heart thundered like mortar fire. Rage pulsed in my throat. I wanted to kick the door open, drag him into the street, and tell the town what kind of parasite we'd let into power. But I didn't. Not yet. War teaches you many things, patience being one of them. The best shots are the ones they never see coming. That night, I called my sister Alicia. Colin's mother. She picked up on the second ring. Al? You okay? No. And neither is your son. I told her everything. Every word I heard. She didn't cry. She didn't deny. She just whispered, I was afraid of this. Afraid of what? I asked. There's something you need to see, she said. Old letters. From when he was first starting out. Back before the shine. I kept them. I think they prove what he really is. When can I get them? She hesitated. Tomorrow. Right before the parade. But Alan, be careful. Colin plays dirty. He always has. I stood on my porch as the sky lit up with early fireworks. My hand rested on the flag draped over the railing. And I swore, to every name carved on that memorial downtown, I would not let him get away with this. But just before sunrise, someone broke into Alicia's house. And the letters were gone. Alicia's voice was shaking when she called me at 5:42 a.m. They're gone, Alan, she whispered. The box is gone. I was already dressed. Sleep had never come. Not after hearing what Colin planned. My boots were laced, metals polished, flag pin glinting on my chest like a blade. I had planned to meet her in 20 minutes. Now I was heading over with my blood pressure spiking and my fists clenched. Her house was just outside town, a modest white ranch with shutters she painted herself every spring. I pulled into the gravel driveway and saw the busted window first, kitchen side, glass like jagged teeth still clinging to the sill. Someone had slipped in quiet. Fast. Precise. Inside, Alicia stood barefoot on the hardwood, arms wrapped around herself. Her robe hung open over a faded t-shirt that said "Proud Army Sister." She pointed toward the living room shelf. It was right there. Metal box. Locked. They didn't take anything else. Books untouched. TV still in place. Even her wallet sat on the table. Only the letters were missing. They knew exactly what to take, I said. She nodded. I didn't tell anyone but you. That makes two of us. We sat down at her kitchen table, same one we used to argue over when we were kids, me with scraped knuckles, her with a scolding stare. I hadn't seen her this rattled since Dad passed. They were early letters, she said. Colin sent them from college. Talking about getting into city politics. He was cocky even then. Said things like, real power isn't earned, it's taken quietly. I thought he was just being dramatic. I shook my head. No. He was rehearsing. She sighed. There was one in particular. He mentioned someone offering him a backdoor deal for campaign help. I think that's where it started. We needed a new plan. The parade was just hours away. Colin would be standing on that stage, red, white and blue banners flapping behind him, lying through perfect teeth. And we'd have nothing but our word against his. Unless. I remembered something. Back in '07, Colin used to email me trying to win favor when he first ran for city council. One of those emails mentioned Veterans Fund reform and flexible appropriations. It sounded like jargon back then. But now? It sounded like a blueprint. I need to get to my storage unit, I told Alicia. I might have something. Something digital. She looked up. You kept his emails? I kept everything. I was a soldier. We don't throw away intel. She smiled weakly. You think you can stop him? I stood and grabbed my jacket. I'm not trying to stop him. I'm trying to bury him. But as I walked back to my truck, I spotted a dark sedan idling across the street. Windows tinted. No plates. I turned, and it pulled off slow. Inside my glove box, the envelope with Colin's old printouts was gone. Someone had been inside my truck. That envelope wasn't just paper. It was leverage. Memory. And now it was gone. I stood beside my truck, fists clenched so tight my knuckles went bone white. That dark sedan hadn't been loitering. It was watching. Waiting. And now I knew why. Someone got in. Quiet. Professional. No broken locks. No alarm. Just gone. Whoever was backing Colin wasn't playing politics anymore. They were playing war. I drove straight to the storage unit. Back roads, no phone calls. I didn't trust anyone, not even the GPS. The unit was 10 by 10, tucked behind a welding shop just outside town. I'd rented it back in 2009 after the house fire. It still smelled like burnt wood and old carpet. Inside, crates. Ammo cans. Photo albums. My service jacket. A box labeled 2000's emails. I tore into it. Dust flew. Mouse droppings scattered. But there, at the bottom, was my old external hard drive. Metal casing, dented at the edge. Plugged it into my ancient laptop right there on the concrete floor. And there it was. Subject, Veterans Allocation Flexibility, CRT. Date, September 14, 2007. The body of the email made me sick. The fund is too bloated to track. With the right adjustments, we can move small chunks where they'll do real good, like keeping campaign wheels turning. Dead soldiers don't vote, after all. He actually wrote that. I copied everything to a flash drive, encrypted the file, and stuffed the original hard drive into my duffel bag. Then I called Alicia. Forget the letters, I said. I have something better. She exhaled. You gonna confront him before the parade? No, I said. I'm going to confront him during it. The plan was simple. Let Colin make his big speech. Let him try and spin a reform to the cheering crowd. And then I'd step forward. Read the email. Let every veteran, every parent, every child hear what their golden boy really thought of those who served. But as I drove back into town, I saw it. Main Street was already sealed off. Parade prep in full swing. Folding chairs lined both sides. Flags everywhere. A stage being set up at the town square. And Colin? He was already there, in front of the podium, shaking hands, smiling for the cameras. But he wasn't alone. Next to him stood a woman in a sharp red blazer. Bethany. State Treasury Auditor. She was known for two things, ironclad audits, and ambition. If Colin had bought her off, this whole thing was bigger than embezzlement. It was a machine. I parked 2 blocks away. Slipped through an alley. Found Alicia waiting behind the hardware store with a folder of backup docs. She'd printed every email from the drive. I don't think he's just stealing, I said. I think he's laundering it. Into campaign money. Maybe more. Then we're not just stopping a thief, Alicia said. We're stopping a network. But just as we stepped toward the stage, a fireworks box near the podium exploded early. Blinding smoke and screams filled the air. Colin vanished into the chaos. The blast wasn't huge, not enough to injure, but loud enough to scramble the whole square. People screamed. Flags flew. Children cried. A vendor's hot dog cart tipped, mustard staining the sidewalk like blood. The smoke was thick and acrid, billowing in gray clouds across the stage. And Colin? Gone. Disappeared like a magician slipping out the trapdoor. I grabbed Alicia by the arm and pulled her into the cover of a nearby tent. She clutched the folder to her chest like it was a baby. He planned this, I said. A distraction. Smoke bomb in a fireworks box? Perfect cover. She nodded, coughing from the residue. And he took Bethany with him. I saw them both duck right before the blast. That was no accident. Colin knew he was cornered, but he wasn't running scared. He was repositioning. 2 squad cars screeched in, lights spinning. Officers jumped out, trying to calm the crowd. I spotted Sheriff Curtis barking orders near the bandstand, wiping soot from his face. I moved toward him. Sheriff. I shouted. I need 2 minutes. No cameras. He hesitated, then saw my uniform and nodded. Make it quick. I handed him the flash drive. What's this? Evidence. Veterans Fund fraud. Colin's behind it. The fireworks distraction. That was his getaway. Curtis frowned. You're sure? I'd bet my medals on it. He looked down at the drive, then at me. Where'd you get this? His own words, I said. Back when he thought no one was paying attention. Curtis waved over a deputy and handed off the drive. Get this to the state cyber lab. Priority. I nodded. Thank you. Just then, Alicia grabbed my sleeve. He's not done. What? She showed me her phone. An anonymous text had just come in. You want a war, uncle? Parade's over. Now it's your reputation on the line. He was trying to flip the script. Colin knew our evidence was solid, but he also knew politics was perception. If he could spin the crowd before we showed them the truth, he could frame me as the bitter old vet with a grudge. Call it a smear campaign. Cast doubt. Delay. And in politics, delay meant survival. We needed to strike fast. Curtis waved us over. He's headed for town hall. Bethany too. Emergency press conference. I laughed bitterly. Of course he is. Alicia looked at me. Then we beat him there. We don't just talk, we show. We took the back route, cutting through the alley behind the library. I changed jackets, tucked my medals under a windbreaker. We reached town hall just as the media vans were pulling up. Inside, I saw Colin at the podium, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, the picture of the worried public servant. He tapped the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice solemn, "we've experienced a frightening safety breach. But I assure you, the administration is in full control. And while others try to politicize today's events." I stepped forward. "Save it, Colin." Gasps. Alicia held up the printed emails. "Want to read what you said about dead soldiers and campaign dollars?" Colin froze. Cameras spun toward us. I handed the first page to the closest reporter. And that's when Bethany stepped up beside him, cleared her throat and said, "These allegations are not new. In fact, we have a warrant, but not for Colin. For Alan." "A warrant? For me?" The air left my lungs like I'd been hit with a baton to the ribs. Bethany held the paper high, face carved from stone. "This morning, an anonymous complaint was filed. It included allegations of unauthorized access to municipal servers, possession of private documents, and harassment of a public official." Colin didn't even smirk. He just stepped back, folded his arms, and let her do the dirty work. I looked at Alicia. "They flipped it. They're flipping the whole thing." She shook her head. "No way they got that complaint together in an hour. This was preloaded. Ready to fire the moment we got close." Bethany turned to the cameras. "This is what corruption looks like. A bitter man abusing his reputation, manipulating his uniform for personal revenge." The crowd began to murmur. Even the press looked stunned. I could hear whispers, "Was it him all along? That old vet?" I stepped forward. "That's a lie." Bethany snapped back, "The warrant is real. You're being detained pending investigation." Two officers stepped up beside me. Not Curtis, deputies I didn't recognize. They weren't from our town. Alicia stood in front of me, voice trembling. "You can't do this. We have proof." One of the officers took the flash drive from Curtis's deputy, glanced at it and slid it into his pocket. Not even a glance. That's when I saw it, the subtle exchange of a nod between Colin and one of the deputies. My heart sank. They had state backup. Maybe even higher. I wasn't just up against Colin anymore. I was up against a whole system that needed people like him. Bethany motioned. "Mr. Allen, if you resist, you'll be charged." I held up my hands. "I served 2 tours overseas," I said. "And this? This is the dirtiest battlefield I've ever stepped on." They cuffed me. Camera shutters snapped. Reporters shoved mics forward. The press conference had turned into a public shaming. As they led me out the side door, I heard Alicia's voice behind me. "I won't stop. You hear me, Colin? I won't stop." Inside the cruiser, my thoughts raced. We still had the emails. Printed copies. Maybe screenshots. There was still time. And then the officer beside me leaned over and whispered in my ear. "You should have stayed quiet, soldier. You're not getting out of this one." They put me in holding. Small concrete room. No windows. No clock. Just the buzz of a fluorescent light overhead and the echo of injustice bouncing off the walls. The cuffs left red marks on my wrists. My dress shirt, the one I'd ironed for the parade, was torn at the sleeve. I looked more like a suspect than a symbol now. And that's what they wanted. They didn't need to convict me. They just needed to smear me long enough for Colin to vanish behind fireworks and press releases. I sat in silence. Not broken. Just calculating. Then the door creaked open. Sheriff Curtis stepped in, holding a manila folder. His face was grim, but his eyes weren't blind. "I had no idea they were bringing state boys," he said. "Bethany came in under jurisdiction protocol." I was boxed out. "Don't tell me," I said. "You're here to say sorry." "No," he dropped the folder on the metal table. "I'm here to give you one shot." Inside the folder were copies. Not the flash drive, that was gone. But copies. Alicia had scanned every email, every timestamp, and sent them to Curtis directly, just in case. I stared at them. There it was again. The same line. Dead soldiers don't vote. Redirect the funds. Curtis leaned in. She's still out there. Rallying people. Printing the truth. I don't know how long I can protect her before they come for her too. I looked him square in the eye. Then we take this public. We bypass their press circus. Curtis frowned. How? Let me speak. 1 minute. From the courthouse steps. On camera. Live. You're a detained suspect. Then arrest me again afterward. Curtis paced. Then cursed under his breath. You've got 1 shot. In 1 minute. I'll clear the media lane. After that, I'm out of rope. 10 minutes later, they walked me out, not free, but not silenced either. News crews were still there. Colin was gone. Bethany was unavailable. But the microphones were still hot. I stepped up. My name is Alan, I said. Veteran. Brother. Citizen. And until 10 minutes ago, the target of a political frame-up by the man you call your deputy mayor. A hush fell. Cameras locked in. He stole from veterans. Used our graves for gold. And tried to pin the truth on me. But I've got the words. His words. Right here. I held up the letter. And then a hand grabbed my arm. It was Bethany, and behind her, a federal badge. You're coming with us. Now. The badge was real. The grip on my arm was firm. And Bethany's face? Still unreadable, still cold. They didn't cuff me this time. But they didn't say a word either. They walked me past the cameras, past Curtis, past Alicia, who screamed my name until her voice cracked, and into a black SUV with government plates. No one said where we were going. Not a word during the drive. I stared out the window, watching Independence Day banners flap in the wind, wondering how many more parades would be built on silence. We pulled into a nondescript federal building 5 miles outside of town. Glass front. Gray stone. No flag. No welcome. Bethany finally spoke as we entered a steel-doored conference room. Sit. I sat. She closed the door and locked it. For a second, I thought she was going to throw another charge at me. Instead, she reached into her briefcase and slid a file across the table. Everything you said, she whispered, is true. My pulse kicked. What? I've been investigating Colin for months. The fund. The shell accounts. But I had no proof. No paper trail that stuck. Until you went public. I stared at her. Then why the hell frame me? Parade me in cuffs? She looked down. Because if I didn't play along, I'd get iced out too. My offices watched. Phones tapped. I needed you to force it into daylight. I leaned back. So you used me. I protected you, she countered. That warrant? Fake. Issued through a dummy protocol to get you into custody and out of Colin's reach. My jaw clenched. You could have told me. She shrugged. You would have punched me. Fair. I opened the file. Bank accounts. Names. Dates. Transfers. Offshore laundering. Some of it in my name, as Alicia warned, but now with forensic audit proof that Colin forged every inch. Why now? I asked. Why help me now? Bethany stood. Because Colin's going bigger. He's planning a state-level run. If he gets traction, he'll have immunity before we ever file. She tossed a burner phone on the table. Press conference. Tonight. You, Alicia, Sheriff Curtis. This time, you don't ask for a minute, you take the mic. I stared at the phone. Bethany opened the door. I'll clear the stage. You bring the fire. As I stepped into the hallway, I asked, "And what about you?" She smirked. "Let's just say I prefer justice over job security." An hour later, I met Alicia and Curtis outside the county courthouse. The crowd was already gathering again. This time, not for fireworks. For truth. Curtis nodded. "You got one shot." I looked up at the flag overhead. "No," I said. "This time I'm making it count." But just as I reached the mic, a voice behind me growled, "You say one word, and your sister disappears." I didn't have to turn around to know who it was. Colin. His voice hadn't changed since he was 16, still smooth, still poisonous. Only now, it wasn't rebellion in his tone. It was command. Calculation. "You say one word," he whispered again, closer, "and Alicia disappears." Quietly. No headlines. No parade. I turned slowly. He was smiling. That same politician's smile. Crisp suit. Flag pin. Empty soul. "You don't have the guts," I said. He leaned in. "Don't need guts when you have people." Behind him stood two men in dark jackets. Clean. Civilian. Not local. "Alicia walks free," he said, "if you walk away. You say the wrong thing, and the fund won't be the only thing we bury." I saw Alicia in the crowd. She was holding the binder. Her hand trembled, but she stood tall. She didn't know. Not yet. Bethany was near the courthouse doors, watching. She saw Colin too. Saw the goons. Her expression didn't change, but she slowly raised her phone. Live feed. Every second counted. I looked at Curtis. "Stay close to her." He nodded, no questions asked. I turned back to the mic. Colin was still behind me, but further now, like he expected fear to do the work. I looked out at the crowd. And I remembered Baghdad. The broken schoolhouse we secured in '03. We stood on rubble with rifles in our hands and translators at our side. We spoke not for power, but for peace. This wasn't so different. I tapped the mic. "My name is Alan," I said again. "Veteran. American. Brother." The crowd leaned in. "I've served in battle. Buried friends. Watched leaders lie. But I never thought I'd face my worst betrayal on my own soil, for my own blood." Colin took one step forward. I raised the binder. "These are the real documents. Proof of stolen funds. Falsified accounts. A city official who looked at veterans' graves and saw dollar signs." Gasps. Flashes. Colin started moving. Fast. "I was warned not to speak," I said louder. "Threatened. Promised silence for safety. But I didn't fight overseas just to be bullied in my own backyard." Bethany walked forward, holding her phone up. "It's all live." Colin froze. Alicia stepped up beside me, eyes locked on her son. "You want to threaten me?" she called. "Do it to my face, Colin." He didn't speak. The crowd erupted, questions, accusations, demands. Reporters swarmed the podium. And just as Curtis stepped in to take control, one of Colin's men pulled something from his coat and the crowd scattered in a panic. People screamed and scattered as the man reached into his coat. Curtis was already moving. So was I. For a heartbeat, everything slowed, the panic, the breath, the rush of blood in my ears. My instincts kicked in, 30 years old again, every muscle screaming for action. The man pulled out. A flare. He cracked it. Red smoke burst into the air like a signal fire. Diversion. Curtis tackled him mid-step, brought him to the ground. Alicia ducked behind the podium, clutching the binder to her chest. Bethany shouted into her phone, demanding backup. And Colin? He was gone again. I shoved through the smoke. Pushed past panicked bodies and tangled chairs. I caught sight of him darting into the alley behind the courthouse. I followed. The alley was tight. Brick walls. Chain link fences. Dumpsters and the acrid sting of the flare still hanging in the air. Colin was fast, but I was fueled by fury. "Colin!" I shouted. He turned. Cornered. Breathing hard. "You're finished," I said. He held up both hands. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me," I snapped. "What is it? Patriotism? Justice? You stole from your own. From me. From Mom." He shook his head. "You don't get it, Uncle. The fun was dead money. Sitting in bureaucratic limbo. I was going to use it to build something real. A legacy. Hospitals. Infrastructure. A future. You were going to launder it," I said. "And leave veterans cold. No one cares about them anymore," he hissed. "Old men and old medals don't win elections." I stepped closer. "They win wars. You ever think about that? Who gave you the freedom to steal in the first place?" He reached for something in his pocket. I didn't wait. I slammed him into the wall, wrenched his arm back, and yanked the item from his coat, a phone. "Still recording. You were going to spin this too?" I growled. He didn't answer. Curtis appeared behind me, gun drawn. "Step back, Alan. We've got it." I did. Curtis cuffed him. "Read the charges." The whole alley echoed with Colin's rights as they were stripped from his mouth. The moment he was loaded into the squad car, I felt the weight drop from my chest. I walked back to the square. The smoke had cleared. Bethany had the flare guy in custody. The crowd was shaken, but watching. Waiting. I climbed back onto the stage. Alicia joined me, face pale but proud. "Where were we?" I asked into the mic. People laughed. Applauded. Cried. I opened the binder again. This time, with no fear. Curtis stepped forward. "I just got off the call," he said. "State justice is taking it. Colin's being indicted. Federal charges pending. And Bethany Dash," he looked at her. "She's helping clean house." Alicia gripped my hand. "We did it." I looked out over the flags. The people. The families with folded chairs and paper flags and tear-stained cheeks. And then Bethany stepped onto the stage, holding a new document. "There's one more account we didn't know about," she said. "And it's in your name, Alan." The words hit harder than any accusation yet. "In my name?" I asked. Bethany nodded, flipping open the file she held. "Account opened 7 years ago. Domestic bank. Multiple deposits all traced back to a shell company registered to one Alan R. Whitmore. That was my name. My full name." I felt the world tilt beneath my boots. Curtis stepped in. "You saying he took money?" Bethany shook her head. "I'm saying someone made it look like he did. If I hadn't dug deeper, the trail would have ended here, with Alan framed as the inside man who blew the whistle to cover his own tail." Alicia gasped. "That's why Colin didn't run. He thought he'd already buried you." Bethany handed me a printout. It was all their bank routing numbers, addresses, initials, and one forged signature that almost matched mine. Almost. Except I signed with a straight cross on the T. Whoever did this curled it. Sloppy. Too confident. I looked at Curtis. "Can we seize it?" He nodded. "Already started the paperwork." Bethany tapped the file. "And when we get access, I'll trace every dollar. Every check. Every donation Colin funneled through your name." I stared at the document again. That fake signature. That fake Alan. And a thought clawed its way to the surface. "This account," I said slowly. "The dates. They line up with the building permit for that Veterans Memorial expansion, the one that was announced, but never built." Bethany's eyes narrowed. You're right. That permit was Colin's pet project. Curtis frowned. You saying the money went into this account? I nodded. He made it look like I was skimming from a memorial. Alicia stepped back, hand to her mouth. He used your reputation as cover. Again. The crowd had thinned, but the press stayed. Microphones hovered. Cameras blinked red with attention. I stepped back to the podium. Let me be clear, I said into the mic I didn't take 1 cent. But someone did. And they wore my name like armor. The weight in my chest grew heavier. This wasn't over. Bethany leaned in. The deeper I go, the worse it gets. Colin had help. A second name just came up on the transfers. Who? I asked. She didn't answer. She pointed. I followed her hand, and saw Shannon, Curtis's deputy, quietly slipping out of the crowd and into an unmarked car. Shannon. Curtis's right hand. The deputy everyone trusted. The quiet one who never made waves. And now she was slipping away in an unmarked car. Bethany snapped into action. We need eyes on her now. Curtis was already barking into his radio, the look on his face like someone had kicked him straight in the gut. Shannon? No way. She's listed as a secondary signatory, Bethany said. On 3 different transfers linked to the fake Veterans Memorial expansion. All roads lead through her. Alicia leaned in. How long has she been covering for Colin? Bethany answered, long enough to learn how to hide a paper trail. Short enough to make mistakes. Curtis was pacing. That car's not in the fleet. She planned this. Waited for the moment we were distracted. I stepped down from the podium. Where would she go? Curtis ran a hand over his face. If she's smart, she's burning evidence. If she's desperate, she's running to whoever paid her off. Bethany tapped her phone. We may not need to chase her. We can intercept her at the bank. If she's pulling cash, we'll catch her red-handed. Alicia glanced toward the courthouse steps. We need to move now. We climbed into Bethany's SUV. Curtis drove. No sirens. No radio. Just tension, thick and electric. As we sped down the road toward the downtown branch of First Central Savings, I stared out the window. I'd trusted Shannon. She drove me to the hospital after my stroke. Helped organize my birthday last year. She called me Sergeant out of respect. Now she was laundering stolen honor. Bethany checked her phone. ATM activity just triggered. She's there. Curtis floored it. Tires squealed. Pedestrians jumped out of the way. Downtown blurred into a tunnel of urgency and betrayal. We skidded into the lot. There she was. Standing at the outdoor ATM, head down. Backpack slung over one shoulder. Glancing around. I stepped out first. Shannon. She froze. Looked up. Face blank. Curtis climbed out behind me. Tell me this isn't real. She didn't answer. Bethany moved in from the side, already recording. I have records, she said. I have names. Transfers. Forged logins. Shannon exhaled slowly. I didn't do it for the money, she said. I did it because no one ever listens until you make them. Curtis shook his head. You were family. She dropped the backpack. And smiled. You think Colin was the top, she said. He was just a warm-up. Shannon's smile didn't fade as Curtis cuffed her. You're making a mistake, he said quietly, almost pleading. No, she replied. You made it years ago when you thought justice stopped at a badge. Bethany pulled the backpack open. Inside burner phones, envelopes of cash, and a manila folder with a seal that wasn't local. I recognized it. Department of Urban Development, state level. Bethany's eyes went wide. This goes higher. She's been moving money upward. Shannon leaned against the squad car like she'd already accepted her fate. You think Colin was clever? He was greedy. He thought small. But the people behind this? They think big. Infrastructure. Grants. Federal development money. Veterans funds are just the starter. I stepped closer. Names, I said. You're going to give them to us. She laughed. Not here. Not now. If I talk, I die before sunrise. And you? You're next on their list. Curtis tightened the cuffs. Let her sweat and holding. She'll crack. Bethany shook her head. No time. We need those names before they ghost the money trail. Alicia stood beside me, clutching the latest bank logs Bethany printed. This one dash she pointed shows a transfer to a consulting firm that doesn't exist. But the routing number leads to the state capitol. Bethany nodded slowly. And guess who signed off on the last budget for veterans redevelopment? Who? I asked. She hesitated. Monica Hargrave. I froze. That name carried weight. State-level director. Public face of reform. Regular photo ops with senators. The kind of person who smiles on TV and signs silence behind closed doors. She's a machine, Bethany said. Media proof. Lawsuit proof. You don't go after Monica with evidence. You go after her with a wave. You mean public pressure. Exactly. We piled into the SUV, Shannon locked in the back. Bethany hit the gas again. If Monica's involved, Curtis said, this isn't just about money anymore. It's about control. I looked at Alicia. Then we go national. We take the whole truth to the people. No spin. No channels. Just raw. But as we reached the edge of town, Bethany's phone pinged. She pulled over. Stared at the screen. Her jaw clenched. What is it? I asked. She turned the phone toward me. A video was streaming. Me. Sitting in a dimly lit room. My voice distorted. I knew about the fund. I took my share. The others? They got what was coming. A deep fake. They've already started the smear campaign, Bethany said. And if we don't beat them to the mic, you'll be branded a traitor. I watched myself fly on screen, a perfect copy of my voice, my face, my gestures. But none of it was real. The deep fake was terrifyingly convincing. Enough to cast doubt. Enough to destroy everything. Bethany swore under her breath. They had this waiting. As soon as you went public, they launched the kill switch. Curtis pulled up another site on his phone. It's everywhere. News blogs, video aggregators. They're calling you a double agent vet. Alicia's hands trembled as she scrolled through the comments. People are buying it. They're saying you sold out your own. My stomach twisted, but I kept my voice calm. Then we fight fire with fire. Bethany raised an eyebrow. How? We take the real story, the truth, and put it in front of people faster than they can share that poison. We show receipts. Transfers. Signatures. Colin's voice. Shannon's testimony. Curtis nodded. You'll need a platform. Bigger than local. Bethany smiled, tapping her phone. I know someone at Veterans Voice. National podcast. Honest reach. No filters. Book it, I said. Tonight. But time wasn't on our side. By the time we reached Bethany's contact downtown, the internet was ablaze. Local news hinted at conflicting narratives. Political accounts were sharing the fake video as gospel. And then, another hit. Bethany's burner pinged with a text. One line. We have Alicia too. Curtis slammed the brakes. What? I turned to the back seat. Empty. She was gone. Door unlocked. No struggle. My pulse thundered in my ears. Bethany read the rest aloud. They grabbed her 2 blocks back. We missed it. They took her to leverage me, I said. They knew the fake video might not be enough. I slammed my fist on the dash. We need to trace that message. Bethany nodded, already typing. They used a ghost line, she said. Bounced through 6 states. But they slipped GPS ping for a second. Warehouse district. Dockside. Curtis turned the SUV around. We're going in. No SWAT, Bethany warned. Too slow, too visible. Curtis looked at me. Just us, then. I nodded. She's my sister, I said. They picked the wrong hostage. As we approached the docks, the sun dipped low, painting the sky blood orange, fitting for a rescue soaked in vengeance. We pulled up behind a rusted-out warehouse. No signs. No guards. Curtis handed me a sidearm. You sure you're up for this? I've been ready since the day they stole from the flag, I said. Bethany checked her watch. We have minutes before the deepfake reaches the national broadcast cycle. If we don't stop them now, you'll go down in history as the traitor they built, not the patriot you are. The warehouse loomed in silence, rusted metal doors half slid open like a mouth daring us to step inside. Curtis, Bethany, and I moved in low and quiet. Inside, shadows clung to crates and steel beams. The air smelled of oil, dust, and something darker, secrecy. I kept the sidearm steady, eyes scanning every angle. Bethany held up her phone, tracking the last GPS ping. That direction. Far side of the warehouse. Curtis whispered, 2 exits. You take the right. I'll circle left. I nodded, stepping over a broken pallet, every muscle remembering combat. Every instinct sharpened. Then a sound. Soft. A whimper. Alicia. I moved faster now, heart pounding. Behind a wall of crates, I found her tied to a chair, duct tape over her mouth, her eyes wide but fierce. She wasn't broken. She was waiting. I pulled the tape off gently. You took your sweet time, she whispered. Wasn't gonna let you miss the ending, I said. Then I heard footsteps. Not rushed. Calm. Measured. Colin stepped from the shadows. Alone. Unarmed. Wearing a navy suit, not a wrinkle on it. Smiling like this was just another debate stage. You're really not gonna let this go, are you, Uncle? Not while I'm breathing. He sighed. You could have had peace. Could have walked away and let me build something real. You mean lies? I snapped. I mean power. Legacy. The kind of future no one forgets. Bethany stepped out behind him, phone in hand, live feed rolling. Say hi to the people, Colin. He froze. Every word you say right now, she added, gets broadcast to the same channels your little deepfake hit. Curtis appeared beside her, gun drawn. It's over. But Colin didn't flinch. He turned to me. Even if I go down, you don't walk out clean. He reached into his pocket, slow, deliberate, and held up a key. Storage unit. Inside? Every document, transfer, plan. Monica Hargrave's entire operation. Bethany's eyes widened. You're bluffing. Check the address, he said, tossing the key to her feet. But there's a catch, he continued. You let me disappear. No trial. No headlines. I walk away, and you get the truth. I looked at Alicia. At Curtis. At Bethany. This was it. Take the deal and expose everything. Or bring him down publicly and risk Monica slipping away forever. So what's it gonna be, Uncle? Colin said. Justice, or victory? I stared at the key on the ground. Small. Unassuming. But heavy as a verdict. The proof of a greater crime, Monica's name, the real masterminds, the rod above Colin, all locked behind that metal door. And he was offering it. For his freedom. Bethany's voice was tight. Alan, if we let him go dash. Curtis interrupted. There's no guarantee what's in that unit is even legit. It could be another trick. Alicia stood behind me, her voice like steel wrapped in sorrow. He's your blood. But he's never been your family. I turned to Colin. His eyes weren't cold anymore. They were tired. Hollow. Like he'd finally realized how far he'd gone. You think this saves you? I asked. It saves them, he said. Monica will erase me in a heartbeat if I go public. You want her? You need me alive. Alive's not the same as free, I said. He nodded. Then give me a running start. Let me disappear. Change my name. No cameras, no cuffs. Bethany leaned close, whispering, if we let him walk, it'll haunt you. I glanced at the live stream still running in her hand. Hundreds of thousands watching. Veterans. Families. Survivors. They weren't here for a deal. They were here for truth. And suddenly I saw it. The way out. The only way. I looked back at Colin. You'll give me the key? Yes. All the documents are real? They'll bury Monica. I promise. I bent down. Picked up the key. Held it high for the camera. This, I said to the crowd, is the evidence they never wanted you to see. The final piece of the machine behind this fraud. The monster behind the curtain. Colin's smile returned until I turned to Curtis. And I'm still pressing charges. What? Colin stepped back. That's not the deal. I handed Curtis the key. If Monica wants to erase you, let her try. But you'll face a jury first. Curtis moved fast. Clicked the cuffs back on Colin's wrists. Bethany ended the stream. Colin stared at me, venom back in his voice. You think you won? No, I said. We did. Curtis dragged him out the warehouse door. Bethany turned to me. If what's in that storage unit is real, it'll take her down, I said. We'll burn the whole rotten ladder. Alicia gripped my arm. Then let's go get it. But when we reached the storage unit and opened it, it was already burning. The flames roared like a monster denied its meal for too long. The storage unit was engulfed, fire licking up the walls, black smoke curling into the sky. The heat slapped us as we pulled up. Curtis slammed the brakes, and we jumped out. Call it in. Bethany shouted. We need the fire department now. I ran forward. Stopped just short of the blaze. The padlock hung twisted on the ground, cut clean. Someone got here first. Someone who knew exactly what was inside. Alicia grabbed my arm. It's her. Monica. She's covering her trail. Curtis stared at the flames, jaw locked. We were 20 minutes too late. Bethany looked pale. Whatever was in there, it's gone. But I didn't move. Not yet. I stepped closer, squinting through the smoke, and saw something the fire hadn't reached yet. A corner of a file box. Charred, but intact. I rushed in. Curtis shouted, Alan and O. But I was already through the heat, ripping the box out with both arms. Sparks singed my jacket, smoke tore at my lungs, but I dragged it back like it was the last casualty I'd ever carry. Bethany grabbed it, coughing. It's still sealed. We dumped the box on the asphalt. Inside, plastic-wrapped documents. Discs. Photos. Hard evidence. Untouched. Curtis exhaled. You're out of your mind. Maybe, I said, but we've got her. 3 hours later, Bethany held a live press briefing. This time, from the state capitol steps. She laid it all out, the fake accounts, the fake veterans projects, the money trail to Monica's private estate, and the political shell companies she used to fund it all. Colin? Already flipped. Signed a full affidavit to reduce his sentence in exchange for bringing Monica down. Warrants followed. So did resignations. By sunset, Monica Hargrave was in federal custody. And for the first time in months, the air felt lighter. That night, we held a candlelight vigil in front of the Real Veterans Memorial. The one Colin called Dead Money. Curtis gave a speech. Alicia read a letter from Dad. Bethany stood silent, hands in her pockets, her work finally done. And me? I just looked out over the crowd. Men and women in uniform. Gold Star mothers. Kids holding flags. We didn't build a legacy out of money. We built it out of truth. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right.